ordinary people. Even Jagai and Madai, they appear like, real ruffians. Well, they were. But, nobody can associate with Lord Chaitanya unless they're actually pure. Unless they reach a certain platform. So even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he appeared like a Mayavadi. But he actually appeared in Navadvip, in Vijayanagar. Vijayanagar is across the river from Mayapur itself, from the Navadvip, Chandradaya, at the Mayapur and Chandradaya. And he was actually teaching people. He was teaching in a school there with Madhusudan Vidyaspati, he was his brother. And he was teaching Vaishnava philosophy. And then Lord Chaitanya appeared. And Lord Chaitanya told him to wrap his school up and go to, Jagannath Puri. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya didn't want to go. He thought, why should I go to Jagannath Puri? I've got all these associates, I'm teaching Vaishnava philosophy. What more would you want? I'm preaching. So sometimes it happens like that. You're doing all right, and then somebody shifts you. Have you noticed? It happens. But there's a reason for it. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya couldn't understand that reason. And so he thought, well, it must be the Lord's. And the Lord told him, you'll become a Mayavadi. He says, you'll forget, the situation here, and you'll get contaminated by the Mayavad philosophy, and you'll become the greatest scholar on the earth. And that's what happened. And he said, at some point, you'll take it again to Vaishnava philosophy, but he didn't tell him how. And so we hear that, don't we? But from Bhattacharya, nobody could defeat him. And when Lord Chaitanya, he was travelling from, he took sannyas, and he wanted to go to Vrindavan, the home of all Vaishnavas. Navadvip's also, the counterpart of Vrindavan. But he was tricked by, are devotees tricky? Are they? They are. What do you think? Yes, so they tricked him. They didn't want him to go. So Dayananda, he took him on the banks of the Ganges. And then, he was actually so absorbed in trance he didn't know where he was. And then all of a sudden one day he saw Advaitacharya appear, and he thought he'd left him behind miles away. He'd been travelling for a few days now. He says, what are you doing here? He says, I thought this was the Yamuna. And Advaitacharya says, well, this side's the Yamuna. He says, but if you were here, it must be the Ganges. And he told him that the river split here, so it was both. And so he said, anyway, come with me. He took him across the river and he gave him a new set of clothes, and they started performing. So Lord Chaitanya knew he'd been tricked. So this is what happens sometimes. When Krishna wants to leave, Hastinapur, not Hastinapur, is it Indraprastha? Maharaj Yudhisthira keeps telling him to stay. And, Lord Krishna feels obliged, so he stays and stays and stays. So what does this say? This means that, Vaishnavas are ruled by love, yeah. Krishna's conquered by love. And that's something every single person can do here. We can give our love to Krishna. And, George Harrison sung a song like that, didn't he? Can you remember? What did he sing? Hey? Yeah, he plays some. This one's about the guitars one. It was like, I don't know why nobody told you how to unfold your love. You remember that? What do you call that one? Guitar gently weeps. So that's the process of devotional service. The heart becomes hard becomes like this in material life. But it has to become very, very soft and malleable. Komala, they say, don't they? Komala in Bengali means soft. And so Lord Chaitanya was then taken to, he was going to Jagannath Puri. Because why was he going to Jagannath Puri? Does anybody know?
Was that because his mother told him to go?
Yeah, his mother said, he asked, he said, I'll give you a benediction. And she was it wisely, didn't she? She knew she couldn't have his association directly. But she knew that there's a lot of devotees used to travel between, Orissa and Bengal. They're two very strong Vaishnava seats. The Orissan devotee, Aryan they call them, don't they? And they call the Bengali, what they call the Bengalis, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And so they go at least once a year. And so she would always get information about Lord Chaitanya. And what happened on the way. Remember, he came to a place called Ramona. Remember? What's Ramona famous for? Who likes sweet rice? So this is where he had the story. He told the story of what do they call it? The Gopinath deity and the Gopal deity in Ramona. Is it Gopal deity in Vrindavan and the Gopinath deity in Ramona? So he told the story of Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri is a very prominent Vaishnava. He was the grand spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. He was the spiritual master of Nityananda and Advaita Acharya. And so Madhavendra Puri was the first one in our line to, we just heard about conjugal love, right? He was the first one to actually teach this principle of the highest form of devotional service. And so Madhavendra Puri was in Vrindavan, right? And he was very renounced. He wouldn't eat anything unless somebody gave him something. Can you imagine? That's faith in it. Who would like to undergo that vow? The feast being served in there, and you were sat in here. Anyway, Vaishnavas are very merciful. They'll probably bring you a plate, but he was just travelling, and and one day he was fasting, and this little boy came, and he said, and it was so cute, And Madhavendra Puri, he asked Madhavendra Puri, he said, nobody fasts in our village. And so he says, I'll go to the village and I'll get you something to eat. So he went and got some milk, and he came back with it, and he said, my mother sent this, so you can drink. I'll come back later for the pot. So Madhavendra Puri took this milk, and he was attracted to this little boy so much. He didn't realise who it were at the time. And he never came back. And that night he had a dream. And this is when he dreamt about the deity on Govardhan. When the Muslims came to that part of India, they ransacked temples and destroyed the deities. And so one Pujari had hid this deity of Gopal in Govardhan under some bushes and rocks. And in the dream, Madhavendra Puri, he heard the deity speak, and he says, I'm thirsty, I'm so hot. He says, get me out of here. And he told him where he was. So next morning, Madhavendra Puri went to the village, and he got a few villagers. They sort of excavating this part. And there he was, the Gopal deity. And so he took it on to the top of Govardhan Hill, built a temple, and performed opulent worship. What happened then? then the deity, it's hot in that part of the world, I don't know, you know, very hot in Vrindavan. And so the Gopal deity said, can you go to Jagannath Puri and get some chandan, gopi chandan? I said, have you ever felt that chandan when they put it here? It cools you down, doesn't it? And then you can smear my body with this chandan, it's so hot. And it's like, how far is it from Vrindavan to Jagannath Puri? It's about maybe 1,500 miles, over 1,000 miles. And you know, he had to walk all the way. And when he arrived at this temple, which Lord Chaitanya arrived at, this is the story Lord Chaitanya is saying, is that he saw the pujaris coming and serving the deity, and then he saw them with this special kheer, we call it, which is the name for sweet rice. And so he was thinking to himself, you know, I've heard about this sweet rice, I'd like to make that sweet rice for the Gopal deity. And so it'd be good to have a taste of it, see what it's like, and I know how to make it. And then he pulled himself, he thought, oh, I'm so sinful. You know, I'm wanting to taste this sweet rice before, you know, Gopinath deities actually had it. And so he went to fast in the marketplace. And then that night, the pujari, he was visited by the deity in his dream, and he said, I want you to go to the altar. He said, I hid some sweet rice behind the curtain, so the pujari couldn't see it. He said, take that sweet rice and go to the marketplace, and then shout for Madhavendra Puri, this sweet rice. And so the pujari did that. He went to the marketplace, it was night, there was nobody there. Madhavendra Puri, has anybody seen Madhavendra Puri? The Gopinath deity has something for you. And so Madhavendra Puri, he took the sweet rice. And then he carried on to Jagannath Puri. And in Jagannath Puri, he left immediately. Why did he leave immediately?
Oh, because if people heard about him, about what had happened, he'd get lots of...
Yeah, he'd be famous, wouldn't he? Yeah.
attention.
And, you know, when people see you as being something special, you start to believe it, don't you? yeah, they're right. So he didn't want that. He thought, if I leave, you know, I'll get the Jagannath Puri before word, because, you know, word doesn't stay in one place, does it? When I were in Russia, we went to Georgia actually. We went to one place where it's famous for water. What do they call it now? They call it Borjomi. Have you heard of Borjomi water? It's very, very healthy, very curing. There's a spring there. People go there and spend a week or two there just drinking this water, and it cures so many diseases. And so we went to Borjomi to do a Harinam. And when we got out of the car, we were all unpacking these Mataji's, old Mataji's, you know, leaning out of the window. And what did they say? What are you doing? They were talking in Georgian, but, you know, the Georgian devotees ran. I said, what is she talking about? She says, they're asking us what we're doing. And it were all over the Borjomi before we'd even set off on the Harinam. You know, if you want to spread Krishna consciousness, just tell the Mataji's, there's no problem. So where were we now? We were, so word spread, and it reached Jagannath Puri before he got there. And so you know, everybody, he went for this. Usually it's quite difficult to get hold of Chandan. You know, you have to have special license, you have to get authority from the king. The king gave him so many tolls, so many mounds of, it's, you know, pretty heavy, and some camphor is very rare. And so, and they gave him passes so he wouldn't have to pay any tolls on the way back. And on his way back he came to this Ramona again, and there he had another dream. It was a Gopal deity in Vrindavan, and he said, you don't have to bring it all the way back. He says, if you put this chandan on the Gopinath deity in Ramona, then that will actually satisfy me. So Lord Chaitanya was telling this story, and what happened next? Then he went to where? He went to the Nada River. The Nada River. In the Nada River, that's where Lord Chaitanya, there's a Shiva temple there. And Lord Chaitanya went into the Nada River to bathe. And when he came out, there was no dunda. And he said to Nityananda, have you seen my dunda? He said, what happened to my dunda? He says, well, you were dancing in ecstatic kirtan and you fell over it and you broke it. So we threw it in the river. And so what did Lord Chaitanya when he stormed off without them? Why did Lord Nityananda break his dunda? There were 3 reasons.
Was that because he's a Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he doesn't need it?
Eh?
Because he's a Supreme Personality of Godhead, he doesn't need it?
That's one.
Yeah.
Lord Nityananda said, why should he have to carry a dunda? Because he wasn't a first class sannyasi, you know that. Sarasvati sannyasis are actually the first class, and ashram sannyasis. He was a Puri. Bharati, he was at Bharati, wasn't he? Kesava Bharati was his spiritual master. And so, Lord Nityananda said, he's none of these things, he doesn't have to carry a dunda. What was it? Another reason? You're going to have to work today, you know. And because it was a single rod, it was a Mayavadi, or a impersonalist dunda. And there was another one, I don't know what that is. I forgot now.
What is a danda?
A danda, it's, sannyasis, they carry a stick, a pole, you see them? So there's 4 actually, 4 pieces of bamboo, and then the little piece at the top. So there's, it means we're serving Krishna with body, mind and words, and the 4th one is the Jivatma. But Mayavadis, they don't have a personal conception of God, personalists, so they have 1 danda, Eka danda. We have 3 danda, body, mind and words, right? So this is a symbol of renunciation. I remember it was Brahmananda's brother, Gargamuni, is it Gargamuni? Gargamuni, yeah. So he got on the plane in Poland to fly to Scandinavia, Sweden I think. And when he got to the other end, at that time you used to put your dunda in the hole. And when he got to the end, they'd lost his dunda. And we were going to take him to court. It would nicely, file a case against him. And so he went to Prabhupada, and he was like a little bit, hesitant to speak to Prabhupada about it. He said, Prabhupada, I've lost my dunda. And Prabhupada said, without even looking at him, like, don't worry about it. If it's practical, use it. If not, don't bother. Prabhupada, they were very practical. One day they were fastening the microphone. The microphone, sometimes you've seen them fiddling about in front of the speaker trying to get it right, Most speakers ain't got any front teeth, you know. And they hadn't got a clasp to fasten it on. And so he took off his barometer and wrapped it around and tied it. So, you know, we learned that these rules and regulations, you know, what do you call them? They're secondary to the principle. The principle is to become Krishna conscious. The principle is to become Krishna conscious ourselves and to give Krishna consciousness to others. So this was Lord Chaitanya's mood also. And coming back to the point before we got up to the point where he's a Dayananda. So now we're in Ramona, right? And Jagannathpur. So Madhavanapur, he came from Jagannathpur, he had this dream, and so he put the Chandan on the deity, and then he broke the danda. So they call it Danda Bandha Nadia, the place where the danda was broken. And so Lord Chaitanya went forward to Jagannath Puri without them. He wasn't really angry, he was actually pleased that Lord Nityananda was thinking like that. But you know, he has to set the example, don't he? That's the trouble, isn't it? You can't just, you have to set the example externally. And so he did that, he left, and he went to, and then he went before he wanted to see Lord Jagannath without anybody else. He could just, it's sometimes like that, isn't it? You know, when you're on a group, after a few days, you just want to be on your own, don't you? Give me a break. And so he felt like that. Lord Chaitanya, he went before Jagannath deity, and he was in so much ecstasy, he just completely lost consciousness. So much so that he looks as if he's actually left his body. And when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came, he was there at the temple at the time. He was the superintendent of the temple. And so the guards, they thought it was another Sahaja. You know what Sahaja are? You know what Sahaja is? Oh.
It's people who try to sort of reach the highest without being qualified, and they sort of pretend that they're like gopis and things like that.
A Sahaja is a devotee. It's a Prakrita Sahaja, materialistic devotee. Prakrita Sahaja. And yeah, they externally practice devotional service, and internally they're not actually on that platform. But they considered that this is actually they're going the right way. It's to some degree it is devotional. But Prabhupada said that. And so the gods saw, Lord Chaitanya was a Sahaja, Prakrita Sahaja. And so they were considering beating him, but Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he stopped them. And he got a little cotton swab. There was no sign of life in the body. No pulse, no breathing, completely nothing. And so he got a little, what did he get? A little cotton swab. That they want, these fine hairs. He just put it in front of his nose and it just moved a little bit. So he could understand there was air passing. This is Yoga Siddhi, right? The yogi doesn't seem to be breathing, but he's perfected the art of just needing a little bit of breath to keep the body actually working. And so he took him back to his house, and then the devotees caught up, didn't they? They went to Jagannath temple, they found out where he'd gone, they followed the path of Sarvabhauma to his house, and Sarvabhauma explained the situation to them. So they came to the conclusion, they just started chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And, you know, Lord Chaitanya was brought back to external consciousness. And Sarvabhauma, he looked at Lord, he says, he's never going to last as a sannyasi. You know, can you imagine? It's like, you know, Krishna's described as Madan Mohan, the attractor of Cupid. So you've got to be pretty good looking, haven't you, to be the attractor of Cupid, you know? So Lord Chaitanya is none other than, you know, Lord Krishna, just a different colour, that's all. And when Sarvabhauma looked at him, he thought, he'll never last. You know, he's just so handsome that all the Matajis will be, you know, trying to attract his attention. That's why it's the only thing I can do. Yeah, the only thing I can do is, you know, train him up in Vedanta philosophy. And so, you know, he offered that to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya agreed that, yeah, I need, if you say so, I need training up. And we all know the story how he was sat there for 7 days. Sometimes when you're giving classes like that, you know, even for half an hour, it gets a little bit iffy, you know, everybody's so quiet. So he lasted for 7 days. And he never said a word, and after a while, you know, Sarvabhauma said, do you understand what I'm speaking about? He says, you know, you've been sat there for 7 days, and you've never shown any sign of asking any questions or any clarification or anything. He says, do you understand what I'm saying? He said, well, if you permit me to speak, I can reply. And Sarvabhauma said, yes. He says, well, I can understand, you know, Vedanta philosophy is as clear as is as clear as anything. It doesn't need any explanation. It is what it says. He says, but your explanation, it just completely covers the real meaning. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was shocked. And this conversation went on, and then, you know, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, his brother-in-law, is it brother or brother-in-law, was Gopinathacharya. So he went to Gopinathacharya and he said, he told him, and Gopinathacharya said, I've been telling you for so long. He was a devotee, Gopinathacharya. He says, it's a Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, you know, you can't tell him anything. And but Sarvabhauma was a strict logician. He wouldn't accept that, even though it was something very special. He says, well, you have to prove it from Shastra. And so Gopinathacharya, he was actually trying to convince Sarvabhauma by Shastric evidence. And he didn't actually accept it straight away. But eventually he spoke to Lord Chaitanya again. And what did Lord Chaitanya start? He started speaking the philosophy of, you know, Vaishnava philosophy, and he completely overwhelmed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya with his with his, you know, exposition. And then, so then, you know, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya realised this is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this started in where? Vijayanagar in Bengal. But we never hear about that, do we? And then, so at the right time, Lord Chaitanya came and took him out of his Mayavadi understanding, and he came back to his natural Vaishnava qualities. And that next day, Lord Chaitanya went to see him early in the morning with some Mahaprasadam from Jagannath Puri. You know, and you can imagine how pukka Sarvabhauma was. You know, everything has got to be logical, got to be explained nicely, everything has got to be, you know, just right. And so you can imagine when he gets up in the morning, you know, you brush your teeth, you wash and you do everything before you actually take something to eat, right? You say so many mantras. And so he just got up, you know, dirty mouths, dirty hands, and he got them, and he took Mahaprasadam. I didn't take it. I could have took it straight away. Well, you'd have been disappointed then, wouldn't you? You see. So, so these are the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And we like these pastimes, right? We like to hear about these pastimes because they're personal. You know, when we're speaking philosophy, you can see everybody's eyes starting to roll, you know. But then when you say, I want to tell you a story, everybody's awake. So we're attracted to personalism, we're not attracted to impersonalism. And that was the purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. He came to show us how to be a devotee, how to be very personal. And the Panchatattva appeared with him. Why did he bring the Panchatattva? Why didn't he come, just on his own? The Panchatattva don't appear, or with Radha and Krishna, do they? In fact, the Panchatattva were the first deities that I saw. I used to go to the Manchester temple. Is there anything that anybody know about the north of England? Has anybody been past Luton?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yes,
What?
I have been past, but not through
Yeah.
a temple.
Richard is from there.
Are you?
Durham.
Devon?
Durham.
Oh, Durham, that's right. Yes, so there's the hills called the Pennines, have you heard of them?
Yes.
One side is Sheffield, that's where I used to live, in Sheffield. On the other side is Manchester, so there was only a centre in Manchester. It wasn't a centre actually, it was a meeting in the university when I first went. And I used to go over every week. And after I'd been going for a few months, Rancho, anybody know Rancho? Rancho Prime, he was the temple, well he wasn't temple president, he was the chief in charge there. And he said, why don't you go to Worcester, to the temple in Pershore actually, was Chaitanya College. It was huge, it was much bigger than the manor, 3 times bigger than the manor. And they had a separate, it was so big, they had a separate building, it was like a little church and that was the temple room. Did you ever go?
No, still there though, Kroom Court, isn't it?
Yeah, and so, he said you'll see the deities there, you'll get Mahaprasadam, you'll have association of devotees, Mangalati. So that weekend I went and, the next morning I went into the temple and there were 5 deities on the altar. I was completely shocked. I didn't know what to make of it. And one of them got a beard on the end. And so I was completely bewildered until, the devotee started to explain. So that was the first time I saw the Panchatattva. And I couldn't understand, and for quite a while I understood they appeared with Lord Chaitanya to help him to preach. But there's something very special about the Panchatattva. You know what it is? Just like Lord Chaitanya, he converted the chief of the Mayavadis, didn't he? Sarvabhauma. So that Mayavadi philosophy was very prominent at that time. So he appeared with these 5 devotees, Vishnu Tattva, Shakti Tattva and Jiva Tattva, to show that to defeat Mayavad philosophy, to actually shake the Mayavadis up. Because he could explain most things in Sanskrit, the language is very malleable and they can actually manipulate it to give a wrong, their understanding. That's Krishna's special mercy. If you want to forget Krishna, he'll make it so that you can, and you can prove it. He doesn't stand in the way, does he? So, And so, but they can't explain the Panchatattva. Because there's all the relationships in that particular combination, isn't there? There's Lord Krishna's relationship with Balaram, Balarama. Lord Krishna Swayam Bhagavan. Balarama is, what's Balaram? He's Vilas, is it Vilas or? Anyway, he's Tadek Atma, he's the first expansion. And then there's a Vishnu expansion. These are all Vishnu Tattva. So, you know, Lord Krishna has a relationship with each of one of those. Then there's Shakti Tattva, this is who? Yadada. So he's Srimati Radharani. So he's a relationship with Srimati Radharani. And all the Shaktis, all the Gopis, all the different Shaktis, even Maha Maya, Yoga Maya, they're all Shakti Tattva. And then finally Jiva Tattva, that's us. So all these relationships with these different tattvas are there. And it shows that there's interaction between them all. So, you know, the Chaitanya Charitamrita is full of wonderful pastimes. You ask a devotee which book he likes reading best, and 90% they'll say Chaitanya Charitamrita. But there's also the deepest philosophy. So it's just, you know, he was a perfect representative of the Lord, or the Lord himself appearing to distribute this, you know, science of self-realization to everybody, to all the conditioned souls. Because he's both proving the highest philosophy, he's proving his position, and he's also showing the result of understanding the philosophy. The result of understanding the philosophy is, what's the result of understanding the philosophy? We understand we don't know anything.
Yeah.
We don't know anything. But by the time we come to that conclusion, by practicing devotional service, we actually understand that, you know, Krishna, he exists. We can see Krishna working within the sphere of our devotional service. And so, you know, this is what really fixes us in our devotional life. By devotional service, we get Vigyan. Gyan comes from study, from hearing, and Vigyan comes from practice. So Lord Chaitanya showed us how to practice. What sentiments did Lord Chaitanya show most? If you think about Lord Chaitanya, what do you think about, what qualities did he manifest in particular? Just think about, you know, why he took sannyas and how he actually preached.
Mercy.
Mercy.
Humility.
So we should be merciful to the conditioned souls.
Humility.
Eh?
Humility.
Humility. So very humble. What else?
Renunciation.
Renunciation. Who said that? Why?
Compassion.
Renunciation. What was that?
Compassion.
Compassion, mercy.
Very enchanting.
Yeah, he taught us everything. If we read Lord Chaitanya's pastime, we know how to preach. Yeah.
He taught us how to love. How to love.
How to love, yeah. He was stronger than a thunderbolt. He was soft as a rose. He preached, what time is it? What time do we finish?
You can go for another 5 minutes or so, Marge, and then you can open up for questions if you wish, but we need to finish
Okay, so we'll-
5:30. So.
Okay, so so, you know, I've just been trying to explain how, you know, how important understanding Lord Chaitanya is. Because generally, you know, especially devotees who have their roots in India, they prefer Lord Radha Krishna, right? Is it? But you know, we have to understand the Lord Chaitanya as well. If we just worship Lord Chaitanya without Radha Krishna, without Lord Chaitanya, without properly understanding, our service is not complete. And if we worship Lord Chaitanya without worshipping Radha Krishna, our service is not complete. So we have to understand both. And so we just spoke a little bit about, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And we could go into how we preach to different people in different ways and exhibited how we should actually preach also. But anyway, so we can open up for some questions or comments. Okay? Has anybody got anything they want to ask?
So, what is the practical use of a danda?
I was in a play in.
You'll find out if you carry on.
I was in a play in. It was in Russia, actually, at this temple, and they wanted me to, and when Maya came, they wanted me to be a sannyasi and beat Maya up, So, I got my danda, and when Maya came, I went, right, and my danda broke. It was one of those that you screw together, You put it in your case, and then when you take it out, you put it together. It was like a fishing rod, But I forgot that it weren't complete, and it just where it joined, it went. and a biggest cheer of the day, actually. So, what we're saying, practicality of a danda. Well, it's like Prabhupada said, it's just it's just a show, it's just a reminder, sannyasi, of his vows. And it's to actually, it's like an emblem, like a police officer, he wears a tall helmet, doesn't he? But it's a uniform, part of the uniform. But for preaching, we don't need it. Especially in this part of the world, they don't understand what a danda is. In fact, when I first took sannyas, I was walking outside, practically with Antamana, and somebody, one of those workmen in the house in the village, he said, "What you got there, mate? Have you been fishing?" So, So the main thing is, it's just it's not essential, put it that way. When you get a danda, you have to be the proper rite. There are so many things. Why? So many rules and regulations in devotional service. But we can't follow them all, that's all. We ain't got time to follow them all. So Prabhupada came and gave us what we need. He gave us the basics, essential. Like Ekadashi, we're supposed to follow Ekadashi. We're supposed to fast all day, chant all night. Yeah? I mean, if we can do that, it's great, but we used to do that in Manchester. We used to try, we didn't used to succeed. And the temple president said, "Don't do this." We said, "It's in Maya." We thought we were in Maya for saying that. And then after a few Ekadashis, we packed it in. Because even, if you read about Ekadashi, wow, look at that Ekadashi. We follow that one, But then, the whole point about Ekadashi is the same thing. What's the essence of Ekadashi? It's to purify us and help us to become more attached to hearing and chanting about Krishna, that's all. So we said this morning, Yena Tena Pakarina Krishna Smarani Veshayat Sarva Vidine Shereshu Etayara Vakinkara. Sarva Vidya, all the instructions of Shastra are meant to come to the point of just remembering Krishna, that's all. So they've done that if it helps us to become Krishna conscious, it's worthwhile.
Do you want one line Do you want one?
Don't think it would suit me. Maybe has. Just a bit.
Something else from anybody? Ask a question or share a realisation?
May I ask a question? It's just regarding terminology. You mentioned vegan. Could you maybe explain that a little bit more? I didn't really understand what that meant. Vegan.
Vignan.
Is it vegan?
Vignan.
I'm terrible with it. What was it, Jennifer, again?
Vignan. Vignan.
Big Jan.
Vigyan. Oh, Vigyan.
Sorry, thank you.
Well, Gyan is it's knowledge. It means knowledge in Sanskrit,
Okay.
and specifically knowledge relating to transcendental realization. And and Vigyan means that we get knowledge, but if we don't do anything with it, it's not really effective. It doesn't really mean anything. It's like this. They used to have a quiz on television called Masterminds. Does anybody remember that?
Yes.
That was the last time I watched it. That was like 40 odd years ago. You remember? And the one. Remember the taxi driver who won? The one taxi driver, London taxi driver. He won the Mastermind. But what was the point? They're just like going deeply into things which don't really have any effect in life. It's just knowledge. So unless we actually can apply something, when we apply it, we actually realise that it works. Yeah. And so that's the same in any type of knowledge, but especially in spiritual knowledge, is that we hear the instructions, but then when we follow them, then we get a result. And then that becomes a part of our nature, but it's not something we have to remember. It stays with us because we've got realization. So that's real knowledge, when it's actually realized. And it's actually, we become that. Is that okay? Okay.
Everybody peaceful? We'll still got another few minutes, Maharaj. Would you like to describe to the devotees how you first came to Krishna consciousness? Would you like to speak on
Anybody
as
heard
well?
about that? Okay, you told me. So I was driving to work one day, and it was chucking it down with rain. And it was I think it was about 4:45 in the morning. I was on the day shift. I had to get there early to do things for when the rest of them came on. And I thought, getting up at this time in the morning, I'm half asleep. I'm going to a place which I hate. I'm associating with people I don't really like. It's only because I'm getting paid. And I said, wouldn't it be nice if I could actually do something useful, something I like doing, and then meaning. And then within a very short time, I was walking in Rotherham, of all places, and I saw these books in the corner of the street with what I thought was a Buddhist's head on it. It was Prabhupada's head, I thought, wow, Buddhism. And so I got this book, and then this person came behind me and said, I said, how much is this? And he says, give a donation. And I thought, that's strange, give a donation. So anyway, I gave him a donation, and I'm walking away. And he shouted me back, and I went back, and he gave me a record. He called this record, they used to give records out, LPs, 9 Daydream. And so I didn't really want the record, but I took it out as okay, you're offered to it, so I'll take it. Then I was walking away again, and he said, he shouted me back again, I looked round, and he said, Hare Krishna. I thought, oh, what have I bought, you know. I remember seeing these guys on television, they're all nuts. So I thought, you'll never get me doing that. But I was so disappointed. I tried to read it for about 10 minutes, and then I just put it down. I didn't read it anymore. I was just so disappointed. And about 7 years later, it must have been, I think I got the book in 1976, 77. In 1982, I just lost any interest in anything I was doing. Even on Sunday in that part of the world, everybody goes to the pub on Sunday afternoon, and so it was Sunday afternoon. I thought, I don't even want to go to the pub, And then I looked at I saw this book on the shelf. I thought, well, there's not much is going to be, the biggest ordeal reading that book or going to the pub. So I thought, and I decided to read the book. And when I started reading it, I thought, wow, this is I couldn't put it down, just kept reading and reading. And I was thinking, who's wrote this book? It's just explaining things so clearly. And I just started practicing. I read more and more, and it was bittersweet,
Which book was it?
Yes.
Which book was it?
Science Self-Realization. It was a bittersweet experience. After a while I started reading about, I thought it was nectar, reincarnation, karma, and I was really getting into it, life on other planets. And then 4 religious principles, when I got to that point, I was disappointed, I put it down. But it was too late, I'd been hooked, so I picked it up, and I think there'll probably be a way around this, And so, then I used to write to one devotee, they called her, I forget her name, but she was like the scribe for the BBT in England. She used to write on behalf of the BBT, and she used to answer all my questions. And then eventually there was one devotee, New Zealand devotee in charge of the BBT in England, what they call him now. And he was New Zealand, he was a good book distributor. She actually put me on to him because she got fed up answering the question, And he said, why don't you just buy a set of Bhagavatams, they'll answer all your questions. I thought, yeah, that's a good idea. And so a few days later I got a set of Bhagavatams through the post. Then I started visiting Manchester, drive over every day, like I said earlier, and then after about a year I decided that's what I want to do. I gradually built my rounds up until I was chanting 16 rounds, and then I just moved into the temple. But I missed the part, I didn't know the first part. I said I got a book right, but I saw the devotees first time in 1969, I think. I was in the room, one room, and my daddy was in the back room with the television on. He said, come and have a look at this. And so I thought, wow, it must be something really. And I went in, it was the 6 o'clock news, and it was Rath Yatra, I didn't know that. And there was this big card on the news, and all these devotees, shaven headed, robes on. And I said, where does they come from? I've never seen anything like it before, it was like it wasn't like now people have seen it, nobody knew. And I said, where do they come from? He says, they come from India. And I said, they're white. They're not, they're not brown. And so we were arguing this point, and he said, anyway, wherever they come from, he says, this is real religion. I said, how do you know? He says, because everybody's happy, everybody's joyful. And that stuck with me. I thought, he's actually right. There's something special here. And so then about 6 months later, In at number 10 was the Hare Krishna mantra, the Radha Krishna temple. Da-da-dun-dun, da-da-dun-dun, da-da-dun-dun. Hare Krishna mantra, you know. And they were Panch people dancing, you know, Panch people. They only used to wear the 4 directions, you know, usually, but this time they got saris on. And they were dancing to the Maha mantra. And all the devotees were sat on the stage. And I thought, wow, this is far out. And I was actually chanting the Maha mantra, I was mocking them. And I was thinking, who's this Hare Krishna anyway? I thought, you know, it's a really unusual chant, you know, there's something different about it. But then, you know, after that, I remember in hindsight that I just lost a lot of taste for eating any meat, you know. I started to prefer to eat vegetarian. And I can't understand what was happening, nobody else could either. But I, you know, been purified. Then I got the book. And then, you know, that we've already heard that I went to Chaitanya College and everything escalated. Well, I went on the Bhakti course for 3 months, then to the Manor for another few months, and then after that it was travelling Sankirtan for 1 year, and then I came to Manchester after that. But I'm sure everybody has that experience. When you look back, you can see how everything was arranged. You know, it was just like doors were just opened. Doors which like actually were locked. There's no way you could go through them. You know what I mean? With your material consciousness. And Krishna just, they all opened. And you just walked through. And they'll do that now. We just have to actually remain enthusiastic, like we were speaking about this morning. And enthusiasm is not just a quick thing, it's like sustained commitment. Sustained commitment to a process always yields results, you know that. And especially in spiritual life. You know, when I was in Manchester, I was just doing door to door for 16 years. And I thought, is this all I do? You know, I got a taste from it. But I thought, surely I should be doing something else, you know. And I got a bit worried, you know. And eventually things changed. And then I went to the Manor, and guess what I did? Door to door. And then one day, I was, Bhakti Vigar Maharaj came to the, I was in charge of the Brahmacharya ashram, in charge of the Brahmacharya ashram. And I couldn't get anybody to serve him. You know,